Hey guys, how's it going? Another episode of Hollywood Bomber. We are 54 degrees in Fort Worth, Texas. A kind of overcast day. Overcast day. Not too bad. Good ceilings. Just saw a C-130 taking off at Meacham Airport. Very cool. We're hoping to get the fuselage allodyne. We stripped some paint on that. We'll show you that a little bit later. Hopefully get that allodyne so that this week for sure, so that we can paint it next week. We had some real good weather, so that should be going. We're gonna adjust the valves on the engines, hopefully. A lot of replacing parts and pieces, sheet metal work, usual stuff. So hang on, here we go. Hollywood Bomber. Okay guys, let's go see what Joey and Katrina have done on the rudder, our problematic rudder. So, okay guys, what have you done? What have you done?
So finally we're to the point where we got something that looks like it's done.
Yeah.
So,
very cool.
Bead rolled finally.
Got the bead roller, and this looks just like the ones we took off over here, which is awesome. So it's gonna match.
So painted, probably.
Yeah, I'll get that primed for you this week. Then I'm only going to prime the inside. I'm going to prime the inside, and then I'll give you a light coat down the rivet lines, and then when we go to final paint, then we'll prime the whole enchilada. That way you don't have to worry about scratching or messing anything up. So, okay. That looks like $1 million.
Yeah, it looks pretty good.
Yeah, it looks very good. Okay, it was just cleaned up here just a little while ago, and it looked totally cool. Okay, get back to it. Let's see what Caitlin and Blake are up to. Okay guys, so what did you guys do today?
Well, we yanked that sucker out of the nose.
What is that thing?
It's the flap motor.
That's a flap motor and gearbox.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, and best we can do, I think it's Lamb Electric Company. But as far as we know, that's never been out during, we can tell.
Didn't feel like it.
Yeah, and it's well, you had to take it off that way because that wouldn't let go. And this is all just full of gunk. So
yeah, it was really dirty. You couldn't see the nuts and the bolts because they had so much dirt and grime on them for 80 years.
And then we don't even know if it was hooked up electrically right. So we'll conform all that. That'll go down to San Antonio or go down to New Braunfels and get overhauled. So another flight trip this week. Get rid of that. Anywho, okay, get to it. We'll catch you later. Hey guys, we're going to do a short lesson on paint stripping today. So what we're going to be doing is taking off the left side of the fuselage where the end numbers were on the Hollywood Bomber. So we're going to take some paint off. The aircraft was probably originally done in urethane back in the day. It looks like the college, when they had it, they might have put some enamel on there when they took the old big numbers off and put the other big numbers on. So we're taking all that off, but it looks like they rattle canned it. It's pretty poor quality. So we're going to put that on with all new fresh paint. That being said, we're going to take off everything that's there on that one panel. Because we've got some machine work going on, some hanger repair going on, I'm going to probably do a voiceover on this so you can follow along. So anyway, biggest thing we need to do is personal protective equipment. I wear glasses all the time, so I'm pretty good with that. You do want to wear some eye stuff because the strippers that we're going to be using are caustic, they're corrosive, they're toxic, they're not good for you. That's why they will give you burns, they'll give you chemical burns. And they, believe it or not, they will melt paint. That's what it's all about. So it kind of comes with the territory. Important thing, make sure you have the correct paint stripper. Now this stripper is an aircraft stripper. It's a Fed standard stripper. It's a mil spec approved stripper. It is also Boeing approved. So it is, this has been an industry standard for, I would say, at least the last 40 years. This is a PR 3500. Methylene chloride stripper. This shit works. So most importantly, use the right stuff, but as with anything else, this is has to be treated with respect. When we mask, we're going to mask our areas with aluminum tape. We're not going to use paper tape because this stuff will actually permeate, the fumes of this will permeate any kind of paper tape. We're going to use plastic drop cloths, plastic other stuff I'll show you when we mask off the aircraft. Gloves. I've got chemical resistant gloves. These aren't just little working gloves. These are chemically resistant. You can get those at your hardware store, home center, probably not a home center, but probably industrial supply, McMaster car if you don't have anything close by. I use a stainless steel pan. This is an old Emerson basin from the old days, back when they used to clean these things. This is after porcelain and before plastic. So I've been using these, got a bunch of these from my brother years ago when he was in the supply business. So we have paint brushes. The paintbrushes we use are actually a bristle brush. They're not a plastic brush, not a nylon brush. They're actually a bristle like a horsehair, so it's an organic fiber and it will not melt. This stuff will melt plastic, so some plastics, so have to keep an eye out. But that's what we're using for spreading this stuff on. Moving it around and all that, we're going to be using a brass brush. Again, we don't want to use anything like stainless or anything like that to scratch the aluminum. We want to take care of the aluminum as much as possible. The aircraft right now, as it sits, is not an air garden hose. It is, or a hose pipe, as you folks over in the UK would say, British Empire. But we need water. So in case anything happens, I can spray. I've got a water bottle here. I have water at the handy. If I get anything on me and whatnot, I can spray it, clean it off, then come back here, walk back here to the wash sink and get cleaned off, scrubbed off. We've also got the shower stall. So it's all taking care of ourselves, most importantly. This stuff will not work well when it's very, very cold. So it'll work slower. It'll work, but it'll work slower. It will not work very well when it's out in the sun and whatnot. It will dry. So we want to keep this, when we're putting it on, we want to keep it wet. As the paint starts melting and wrinkling and all that, you see that it will absorb this stuff and you'll see the paint will actually look dry and we actually will apply more. The biggest thing on this is don't put stuff on, let it wrinkle and then take it off and then hit it with a garden hose. You want to move it around and use as much of this product as possible. This is expensive. This is close to $200 for a 5-gallon can. This is the real deal stuff. Again, use the right stuff. You'll see some folks are using stuff. Go to the hardware store, it says aircraft stripper. I think it's aircraft stripper. If you turn the can around, on the back it says do not use on aircraft, and I would never use that on aircraft. So I don't even know why they call it aircraft stripper. But it is a weak cousin of this thing, and it's just, to me, it's a waste of money. So we use this, we use it efficiently. It will get the paint off, it will get lacquer off, it will get enamel off, it will get urethane off. The only thing I found that this has got a problem, and it's any stripper, is when you get catalyzed or hardened enamels. That was kind of a big thing back in the 70s, 80s. So it has trouble on it, but it will take it off. The other thing is there are some composite primers out there that don't like to strip. This will eventually take it off, but you end up using quite a bit of product. But this is probably the most efficient, chemically responsible, environmentally kind piece of chemical to use on your aircraft parts. So that's what we're going to be doing. We're getting ready to go strip. So I'm going to go to voiceover and then you can follow along. Here we go. Okay guys, so we have everything taped off. We've got aluminum tape all along the top and bottom and the back. Not going to worry about the door jamb here. It's bare, but we're going to be very neat. So not going to worry about that. We have the static port taped off, so that'll be good. That's actually going to end up being polished, so we're good there. So drop cloth in place, and we're going to do this kind of on the dry side of stripping so that we're not going to be slobbing and having puddles and all that. So here we go. Start putting it on. Okay, so I'm kind of painting this on, not heavy, because I don't want it to dribble on the floor. If we dribble on the floor, we're just throwing the money away, but just kind of keeping it wet. The other thing you'll see here is, you can see this is wrinkling pretty good. Best I can tell, this is where the original urethane was, so it's wrinkling quite nicely. This is not wrinkling. This is probably a lacquer. Even enamels will wrinkle, so this is probably a lacquer or some kind of rattle can deal. This is where the old part, or the old end numbers were, and it was 444GR, so we may actually see some trace of that. The other cool thing about when you're stripping aircraft is you might see some of the original markings if the aircraft was bare aluminum back in its day. When we restored the 170B that I got the Lindy for, we found the original El Salvador registration markings underneath, so that kind of stuff is kind of cool. Original placement of the logos, original placement of any stencil, so it's kind of cool. If you do this slowly, you might end up getting some surprises. Here we have, this is starting, you can see this is starting to let go. So it's kind of cool. This is just letting go, and we're just going to let that product fall to the floor. And then we just wet it up again and hit it again. And just let that product go down the floor. And we're just going to keep moving it around. Get up here, we'll wet this up again. Now this I think is melted. This is probably melted. So let me get the brush. You won't see much activity on lacquer, but what it will do is it will melt without you knowing it. And here we go. You can see here, it's pretty well melted. So it's coming off. And that's where they put the temporary, they repainted it temporarily when it was at the college. And we'll do this again, we'll let this over again. I see an eye, I don't know if this is the, yeah, this is for where the tape was for the big end numbers. Off with water. Good to go. I typically don't use gloves because I'm not messy. If you're doing a really big job, a lot of stuff, you definitely want to use gloves and suit up. But I'm doing this very slow. Coming off quite nice. So the paint in the middle is just absolute rubbish. Lacquers are your hardest paint to get off because it just takes a long time. Going pretty good. We'll come back for a second coat. Okay, this is about 2 coats, 2 full coats. Put the first coat on, got a lot of product, scraped off the floor, or scraped onto the floor, wrinkled up. We wetted it again, got a lot more product. This middle area was obviously a lacquer, probably some rattle can lacquer or something. It was rubbish, so we had to take some scrubbing to get that off. The rest of this has come out quite nicely. We have a little area here that is kind of being stubborn. But other than that, everything's wrinkling off nice, so I would say that this was probably a urethane paint job. Probably for the time period, probably an Lumigrip. That's kind of what folks were shooting back then on most corporate birds. So that's what's going on there. And then when you strip stuff, you do end up getting some little Easter eggs. I'll show you this one here. This is actually some Bondo. You see, it melts. And we'll put some more stripper on it. But that's stuff you'll find on any aluminum airplane most likely. Is you're going to find some filler somewhere. So now what we're going to do is this area here has been real stubborn to come off, but we're going to scrub it down and all that. The inner area where the end number was. The outer area, this metal here will, when I clean it off, I'll scrub it off with a little water and a Scotch-Brite, and you'll see that this metal looks brand new, so it's kind of neat. Everything that was not stripped off for the end numbers looks great. So it looks pretty good. We're gonna let this cook a little bit. It is wrinkling. It's just being a little stubborn, so we'll keep working on that. Anyway, we'll come back when we're getting ready to clean this off. Okay, so I've got this pretty well. This is pretty well finished. I got it scrubbed with the brass brush. Then I got all the product off. I squeegeed the product off into the pan down here. Then took it off and actually wiped this with water and a paper towel to get the rest of the residue of the product off, and then Scotch-Brite and scuffed it off. So this has all been scuffed off with water and Scotch-Brite, all pretty well ready for Aladyne. So we're getting all the stripper product off. That little patch of Bondo was right here. It's almost not even worth worrying about, but we'll redo that. You can see there's a little sanding area there, but we'll probably put that back in. But short of that, this is looking very good, nice and beautiful, no defects noted. Up here, we've got some enamel, or probably urethane. That is just, for some reason, there's a stripe of it. There could have been a piece of tape on it, or who knows what. But it's been a little obstinate, so I'm letting it sit. You can still see a little bit, probably not from your vantage, a little bit residue of the end number. So I'm gonna hit this with a brass brush. That's what this looked like before I hit it with a brass brush the last time. You can see this is kind of, I don't know if you can see, this is kind of, looks cleaner here than here. This is just corrosion and whatnot, so, or just real micro corrosion on the skin. So when we Aladyne it, that'll all be cleaned off. But I'll hit this with a brass brush again, and then we should be pretty well done with this. So hang on. Okay, guys, this stripped out pretty well. This looks pretty good. So we got all the paint off. We scrubbed it. We actually got quite a bit of oxidation off. So this little hickey here isn't that big a deal. That's where the Bondo was. We've actually got a couple of hail hits since that was put in back in the 70s. So I don't think we're going to really worry about that. We'll just make sure it's smooth and clean. Anyway, let's. I'm going to go strip this off and clean it up. So we'll see how we do, and I'll give you an after action report. Okay, this thing looks pretty good. I'm real pleased with it. Looked real pleased with it. So it's clean. It's going to be ready for prep. This is midweek. This weekend we'll Aladyne this and probably shoot it with fresh paint next week, if the weather holds out. So we'll have to see how it goes. But this looks real good, ready for Aladyne. And again, be real vigilant about the kind of strippers you use on an aircraft. It's real important. You don't want to mess anything up. This aircraft had some enamel, probably maybe lacquer. It had urethane and lacquer. Some aircraft you're going to end up with multiple layers of, you may have a lacquer underneath, an enamel underneath a urethane. Some aircraft, they just do a scratch and sand paint job. So this one appears to be, when it was painted back in the 70s or 80s, it was a strip and repaint. Looks real good. And then we got rid of all the rattle can stuff that was done over at the college, so that is going to look good. What we're going to do is we went to a lap seam, which is typically a good place to hide a color or a mask in, or a repair paint where you're going to come in. So we can mask along there, and it'll actually hide it. Once we polish this up, it'll look pretty good. We can come in here, or what we may do is actually mask to the color line, and then this will all be uniform, so it won't kick to your eye as much. We know the aircraft's going to be repainted in the next couple of years, but this will keep it going, and then it allows us to put our sponsors on the side and get that going. So, okay, over to your regularly scheduled program. Okay, folks, we're going to do a wrap up here. This weekend has been absolutely crazy for me, and the reason it's crazy is because we've had so many folks helping out. I think we've had both days between 12 and 14 volunteers out here working on the plane, and they are running me ragged, so that is the best thing that could ever happen. So kind of cool. Let me tell you what we have going on. On the engine, we've replaced this is engine number 1. We've replaced all of the cylinder rubbers and nipples. Those are all brand new equipment. That's the latest version of stuff going on. That'll actually make changing those rubber tubes out a lot easier in the future. We started doing the valve clearance adjustment, so we've got to see where the blue tape is. Those cylinders are done. We're just slowly working around. We just got to the end of the day today, but Steve Swift came by and helped us out. Super big shout out to him. So we're set on doing that on both engines. Once that's done, the valve covers or rocker covers will go on. That's been done. We scuffed out and cleaned up The center case, we're going to just do a quick paint job on that. That should be pretty cool. On the back of the engine, nothing really going on back here, but what we're going to do is probably change out the magneto quill gaskets and seals and get those, because they appear to be leaking. So we're going to change those out. Now's the time to do it. Next time we'll probably put the oil filter on, so that's what's going there. What else did we do? Oh, I'm going to keep walking around the engine here on this one. So guys are getting the new doors put up. That's a whole nother story. We'll tell you we'll tell you an episode when they get it all done. We'll show you about that. We took the spinner backing plate off, and we're removing the slinger ring and all that, and the alcohol. We decided just to get the alcohol off this aircraft. The aircraft had alcohol propellers, but it was never had any kind of boots on the airframe. So we're just getting rid of that whole system. It was kind of stupid to have it. It was probably the way that the aircraft was originally built. So that's what's going on there. On the fuselage, you saw earlier that we had this area stripped. This has all been, Scout and Caitlin and Haley, I believe, got this all allodyne. So this is ready to go. We'll probably paint this coming week. Cabin. In the cabin, did some great work up there. Kevin and Cindy ended up getting the vacuum manifold for all the vacuum instruments, got that removed. We're going with all electronic instruments, just more weight and claptrap off of the aircraft. We got some folks, I don't know, something falling around over there. Got some folks started working on this oil tank over here, figuring out the tubing on that. So we're working on that. That's kind of going on. Cleaned up the firewall a little bit. We still have some work to do on there. Belly, nothing really much going on there. Number 1 engine, this propeller backing plate is kind of stuck on the crankshaft right now. We're going to work on getting that off here next episode. Gary got all of the, and I forget who else. I don't know, it was Richard who it was. Anyway, they got all of, no, Mike? I don't know. We've got a new face. Scout's dad. We've got all of the gaskets, all of Hi, Chucky, I see you. Okay, thank you, ma'am. Good deal. We've got all of the gaskets off of the valve or rocker cover area, so that's cool. That's ready to have, once we do the valve adjustment on this engine, then boom, it'll be, those covers go on, and that's going to be next episode. I may come in this week and when no one's here and do that. It's kind of a quiet time thing. Richard has got the elevator pretty well ready to go. We got the one access cover on it. He's got the wiring redone, so that's cool. So the elevator is pretty well ready to go on, I think. We need a couple of grounding wires, and then it's ready to, some bonding jumpers. It's ready to go on. All these hangers have been cleaned, blasted, and painted, so they're ready to go on. The horizontal stabilizer's been vacuumed. It's ready to close. So next time you see this horizontal stabilizer, all the cover, I would say most of the cover plates except for the ones on the center will be closed. So that's cool. Belt crank and all that back here, that's all been cleaned up and painted, so that's cool. Got rid of the rust on that and any corrosion. All new hardware is going on for attaching all these surfaces. So we have all new hardware for the elevator and all new hardware for the rudder. You saw earlier that Joey and Katrina are working the rudder, so that will probably be within 2 episodes. That will be that'll be done. So that's what's going on here. That's this episode of Hollywood Bomber. We are getting it. We're going to get this plane flying, so it's great stuff. If you can, man, we need some sponsorship. We need some help. We've got the GoFundMe. Definitely anything you can do to help the project out would be great. This is all going to be repainted, this back part of the aircraft, and we're going to be putting our sponsors. If you want to do a corporate sponsorship, or if you want to work with possibly you have some product we could use, that's what that's going to be. So we're going to put our sponsors on the aircraft and get that going. So that's what's going on. Like I said, we got the GoFundMe. Anything you guys can do to help or whatever. If you have any comments below. And then next time, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the paint scheme. We had a local artist, Gerald, and he did a workup for us on the paint job we're looking at. Not right now, but it's going to be in the future in the next year or two, so that's definitely on the plan. So that's what's going on. Hollywood Bomber episode, I don't know, I think we're up to 18 or something, which is kind of cool. So that's what's happening. We'll catch you guys later. HangaRatz out.